Hey everyone, it's Gunther here, and welcome to day 3 of building a no-code product. So I recognize that it has been quite a few days since I last put up a post. That's just because I haven't really had much time to spend on building out my product. So effectively, we're 3 days in, and this is the third day. So I'm not going to spend too much time on slides. I just want to share a few key points, but what I will do is start giving you a bit of a demo of the product and how it's coming along. So quickly then, let's look at what we've been doing, what I've been doing in day 3. I've been building content, I've been building content, I've been building content, and I've been repeating that. So I'm really into the nitty-gritty of the product build now. It is an information product, so all of the work, or the majority of the work, is around building content. There's around 60 or 80 kind of templates that I'm building as part of this change management toolkit. So that's really where most of the time has been spent. Some of the time is spent on learning some of the nuances of the tool I'm using, which is Notion. One might be used to building templates to do these sorts of things in Excel. Most of the stuff is possible in Notion. It just requires a little bit of thinking around how you would build it in Notion in terms of, I suppose, architecture, if you want to call it that, and then how you might do some of the specifics around, like, say, for example, a formula. So, but I'll call some of those things out as and when we get into looking at a bit of what the product looks like. But before we do that, what are the sorts of lessons I've learned, other than this takes more time than you think? Well, the first is really focusing on your minimum viable product, or your MVP. So it is quite difficult, once you set out and say, I want to build this thing, and these are the 60 odd templates, for example, that I want to make up the product, not to get distracted and try and add new things, and adding things that might not add that much value. So really just kind of focus on, what you've set out as an MVP, and kind of stick to that scope. The second point is related to the first one. I've said here, don't over-engineer things, and this is, for example, building out a kind of table and then thinking, what other features can I add to it? But, getting to that point and realizing, well, actually, what I've built at the moment will do what it needs to do. It doesn't really need anything else. So, these are things are bits that I found that can just, cause you to waste time, and you kind of just churn on certain things. So focus on your MVP and don't over-engineer things. So, right, so that's the sort of slidesy bit of the recording today. Let's jump in and have a look at what the product looks like, because I haven't shown any of this before. So I'm going to switch over to Notion, and what you can see here is a what I've called a toolkit content. Actually, we can kind of move out a little bit and look at the home page here. So this is still kind of very basic. I've called it the Change Management Toolkit. There's a bit of a graphic here, and some sub pages. So these I've been building out as I've been going, but I've been focusing on the toolkit content most of all. So looking at the toolkit content, I talked about templates, making those up. So what I've done is I've identified around, I think it was 63 63 templates that make up this toolkit. And what I've done is I've sort of chunked those up into different disciplines. So, these are the sort of the core disciplines that make up change management or business change management. We've got the organizational aspect, we've got communications, we've got stakeholder management, and then we've got learning and development. I've also put in another section around organizational strategy, and this is, often where you're working on projects that might not involve technology only, or they might be projects which involve an organizational restructure. So it covers off all of those sorts of scenarios. It's a comprehensive toolkit that'll help a change manager or a project manager really get the job done of embedding these changes in the organization as and when they're running their projects, and post the projects going live, whatever those projects are. So you can see each of these has a description for the template, what discipline it falls under, when to use this, how to use it, and then some tips and some tagging. So this does look a little bit bland. When we just look at it, it's like a table. It's just like an Excel sheet. But where it really comes to life is, and this is the way it'll be presented and used, is when we switch over to gallery view. So you can see this looks a lot better. I've spent the time, popping in some images. Each of these colors correlates to those disciplines I spoke about. So where we talked about the organizational state, that was red, all the imagery is red. Where we talked about communications, that was green, and all of this is green. And that is the theme that continues throughout the product, and it helps you or the user kind of understand which templates are to be used for what, and kind of where you are, and that sort of thing. So each of these bits in the gallery view then is a template with content. You can see I've only just finished up the red ones here, which is the organizational state. That's as far as I've got. There's a bit more work to do, but let's take a look at what some of these look like. So the first one I'm going to jump into is the organizational change readiness assessment. And what you can see here is the same information you saw in the table layout, but it really just tells you a little bit more about when and how to use this template. I did start thinking about including an an external template, in this case, a Microsoft Office one, or Google Office or Google Docs one. But I've changed my approach, I think, to the point of me saying don't over-engineer things. What I wanted to do was build a product in Notion and have people using Notion. This is a great tool for content management and not necessarily breaking out and duplicating stuff in Excel or PowerPoint documents. So you'll see this is in the first one. I'm probably going to take that out, and everything to date has been built in Notion itself. So each template will have a document control section, which you can do version control and approval. So your typical document management type of stuff during a project. And then very much like a template, an Office template or Google Docs template, it says, in order to complete this document, state your project background and objectives. The blue text is really just guidance. And in essence, that's your first template. Now, this is quite a basic one. It obviously relies on some other inputs, and that's what we're going to have a look at. So let's close that down, and let's look at one where there's a little more interaction and a little more guidance. So this is the organizational change risk assessment. And I think just to bring a little bit of context, this is something that you would use early on in the project to assess the level of risk associated to your project. And it would help you determine the amount of sort of interventions and change management activities that you need to do during the project delivery. Obviously, the content's very focused around change management, as you'd expect, but that was just to give you a bit of context. Let's have a look at what this looks like. So as I stated earlier, we've got our document control section. See, it's a little bit slow to load there. And then we've got the risk assessment you can do. So what I've got in here at the moment is some kind of sample stuff, but what we could do is actually just kind of delete all of these at the moment. Let's just get rid of those. I'm not going to get rid of all of them, but just to give you an idea, what you would do then as a change manager or a user, you would answer these questions. So when we talk about leadership respect, for example, how do we assess this in the organization? So is there a high respect for leadership, or is there respect for leadership? Is there ambivalent respect, so people don't care, or is there poor respect of leadership? So based on this assessment, you would then go and say, okay, well, actually, there's a poor respect of leadership. It's telling me I need to select high. And you can see here it calculates a risk level of 3. So this is kind of the stuff I'd be needing to learn. It's quite easy to do in Excel. I'm used to doing this sort of stuff in Excel. It was new doing this in Notion, but this is what I've built out in Notion. And again, stakeholder impact, we think, it's a medium impact. Business area impact, we think it's low. And you can see it calculates the scores here. What it also does is it says which kind of domain is affected by the question that you're answering. So you'll notice these are color-coded to the sort of cards in the gallery view. So again, this is just how it all fits together. And ultimately, as a user of this toolkit, when I've gone and done this and finished it, it's come up and it's given me a summary of scores now. So it's telling me, in the organizational state, this is the sort of maximum score. It does a bit of an assessment and says, okay, well, the impact risk is 50%, the preparedness risk is 83%. So this as a change manager just helps me assess where I am. So that's the one template. So what I've done here is obviously a guided questionnaire, but there's some calculations that work behind it and dynamically update this. So again, stuff you might do in Excel, but great done in Notion, and all managed through this interface. And as you can see, this is the same. The same sort of approach has been taken for some of the other templates. That's just taking a bit to load up there. Maybe my internet speed. And again, just assessing a level of skills, calculating scores. So this is really what the toolkit's all about. It guides you through the process as a change manager. I guess many of you watching this video will be more interested in the process of building this and what it all looks like. But you can see, there it is already. It's coming together. It takes time to build out all this content. So I'm really going to be focusing on completing all of these, getting them done as soon as possible. So what I will be doing is probably not posting a video after every 8 hours of doing content, because I'll just be showing you more of the same things. But what I may do is, when I start focusing a little more on the landing page and driving traffic towards that, is kind of sharing some insights and experiences there. Or if I come across some challenging aspects of the product, share some of the insight there. And of course, there's other bits to do to bring this all together in terms of, putting up a bit of a kind of payment gateway, or however I'm going to be transacting to sell this toolkit. So that'll all come in time, and I look forward to taking you through all of that. But thank you for watching today. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and I'd love to hear any sort of feedback you've got, both in terms of the videos that I'm sharing, Notion. If you've got questions about Notion, I'm learning so much, give me a shout. I'd be happy to help if I can. Or in terms of doing this kind of no-code, build a product in journey, build a product in public kind of journey, please just give me a shout. I would love to hear from you. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you next time.